Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. Jobs on the line as universities in Yorkshire spend millions of pounds on redundancies to balance the books.
Universities are cutting courses, universities are cutting staff, and we've been impacted by that, and students are still being told that university is one of the only answers out there.
Students say they feel let down by the system. Also tonight, a former gymnast from York finally receives an apology from British Gymnastics 16 years after reporting alleged sexual abuse. Rugby League legends Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield return to Rob's childhood club for a Blue Peter honour.
And everybody's got one, and if not, they're listening to one. We're talking podcasts as a brand new festival comes to Sheffield city centre tonight. We'll be discussing your downloads and perusing your pods 20 minutes from now.
And there's set to be a lot of settled weather to come through the course of the weekend. Temperatures creeping up too. But how much sunshine will there be? I'll be back later in the programme with all the details.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Friday's programme. First tonight, Look North can reveal that Yorkshire's 8 major universities have spent £86 million on making over 5,000 members of staff redundant since 2015. Now, it's part of a bid to cut costs as the institutions attempt to balance their books. More jobs are set to be lost this year as 6 universities have announced compulsory or voluntary redundancy programmes. Students say their education has been harmed by the job losses, whilst universities have called on the major political parties to provide more funding. David Rhodes reports.
A student protest in Huddersfield against staff cuts. It's feared will damage their education.
All staff members are crucial, and we as students matter too.
In Huddersfield, they've announced they need to lose 1 in 10 of the workforce in the latest round of redundancies. That's meant some courses being cancelled and students left feeling shortchanged.
I don't regret going to university, but I know many young people will, and it might take them a few years to realise that. And so I do feel let down by the system, by the fact that we're encouraged to go to university, pay extortionate amounts of money for a degree that we're not even guaranteed is going to be the same at the end.
The cuts are also impacting on careers. Cal, a PhD student and researcher, has been told his colleagues are being made redundant.
When I left London to come back up north, where I'm from originally, I'd made a career choice to move forward at Huddersfield University. The university, rather coldly, has taken that away from me.
Huddersfield Uni says its latest redundancy round is a proactive effort to secure a dynamic and sustainable future during a financial crisis in higher education. Look North has analysed the financial accounts of the 8 major universities in Yorkshire. Since 2015, they've collectively paid out over £80 million to make staff redundant, which has seen over 5,000 jobs lost across the higher educational sector.
Many of the universities, of course, have borrowed heavily in the past to build fancy buildings, big capital projects. They've been hit by the impact of a lot of international students. It's a perfect storm.
International students can pay in excess of £25,000 a year in tuition fees, but a political question persists. Should fees for English students begin to rise? In 2012, tuition fees for students in England rose to £9,000 a year, and they've been capped pretty much at that level ever since. Universities say this amount doesn't now cover the cost of providing education. If tuition fees had risen by inflation over the past decade, students in England would now be facing tuition fees of over £13,000 a year. In this election period, no major party has set out their plans for funding higher education yet, leaving students to ponder what the universities of the future will look like. David Rhodes, BBC Look North, Huddersfield.
Next tonight, a former gymnast from York who first complained about being sexually abused by her coach 16 years ago has finally been given an apology and damages by British Gymnastics. Nikki O'Donnell says she was sexually abused by her coach, who was expelled from the sport. Now, in the letter, Nikki, British Gymnastics Chief Executive Sarah Powell, says she's deeply sorry. Here's Mark Ansell.
As a child, Nikki loved gymnastics. That all changed though when she says she was sexually abused by her coach. 16 years after she and her mum first complained to British Gymnastics about the alleged abuse, Nikki finally has a written apology from the governing body and has been paid damages. Nikki has waived her right to anonymity.
This could have been resolved a long time ago, and I wouldn't have to continue to tell my story to spread the awareness had they have acted when they should have done 16 years ago. I mean, 16 years for an apology, you know, that's just ridiculous.
In the letter, British Gymnastics Chief Executive Sarah Powell says, "I acknowledge and accept the impact the behaviour of your former coach Stan Wild has had on your health and well-being, and I'm deeply sorry for that. This should not have occurred in a place where your safe enjoyment of gymnastics as a child should have been fully secured." Nikki's coach, Stan Wild, competed for Great Britain at the Olympics and ran a gymnastics club in York. He carried the Olympic torch in the city before the 2012 Games. In a statement, Stan Wild says, "I refute the allegations in the strongest possible terms. I have never been charged with any offence by the police in relation to the allegations made against me." Stan Wild is one of the coaches whose names are on the banned list on the British Gymnastics website. The reason given is safeguarding. Nikki thinks there should be much more information about each banned coach to properly help protect children.
I think the word safeguarding is just, it could mean anything. If, you know, you have a child that's wanting to start gymnastics, you should be able to go onto the British Gymnastics website and view everything in detail so that you know what you're potentially getting your child into.
British Gymnastics declined our offer of an interview but reiterated their apology in a statement and said, "We continue to put in place steps to ensure the approach being taken in gymnastics today is very different for those involved. With reference to the banned members list, the information we publish is under constant review and we are listening and seeking wider consultation on what further information may be published in a proportionate and legal way." Nikki's mum, Katrina, says British Gymnastics' apology is long overdue.
I do feel that it's not just Nikki that should have got that apology from them. I feel there's a lot more people that deserve an apology from them, a recognition of the harm that's been created over all these years.
Nikki now wants other alleged victims of sexual abuse in gymnastics to come forward to ensure the sport she once loved is as safe as possible. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, York.
Well, let's talk about this further with Dino Nocciavelli. He's a solicitor specialising in abuse in sport. Earlier, I asked him if an apology 16 years on was too little too late.
Sadly, it probably is. I think for lots of survivors, obviously, they're waiting for this acknowledgement and admission, and an apology means a lot to them. Sometimes sorry is the hardest word. Nikki, sadly, has been waiting 16 years, and that's 16 years too long, in my view.
There was a review into British Gymnastics 2 years ago which found systemic physical and emotional abuse in the sport. Has anything changed since then?
I think the White Review was really important when we look at the kind of culture of gymnastics. I think it has helped, but it's the starter rather than the finishing block of that safeguarding review. The recommendations by Anne White continue to be implemented and haven't been borne out fully. The ICP, the independent complaints process, still hasn't been completed fully, and far too many gymnasts are still waiting for their element of justice and closure. So there still needs a lot more to be done within gymnastics.
Campaigners are calling for much more information about each banned coach to be on the British Gymnastics website, but does it really make any difference if they've been banned from teaching anyway?
I think it's really important that not only that, abusers are identified and are put onto a list, but that it's seen to be done. And what that means is that if you have a child who's going to gymnastics, that you know these people have been removed and why that is. If you're an abuse survivor, you should be able to search for that information, and that information will give you confidence, potentially report to the police, to the governing body, to perhaps speak to therapists, but whatever's needed to again get that element of closure and justice. At the moment, it looks very limited. and it looks a little bit like a tick box exercise rather than being absolutely transparent. These are people who've committed abuse, who have failed their positions of trust. They should be held accountable, and this is where it's taking place. Here's the gymnastic clubs, and this is the full extent of their abuse.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amy.
You're watching Friday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. Smart Art, the new exhibition exploring what's going on in your head when you look at pictures and paintings. Let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom now. A 17-year-old boy has appeared in court following an incident that saw a Sheffield school put into lockdown. 2 adults and a child were injured in the incident at Burley Academy earlier this month. Victoria Share reports.
The boy appeared here at Sheffield Crown Court this afternoon, charged with 3 counts of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm. It followed an incident at Burley Academy in Sheffield on the 1st of May, where police were called to reports of somebody having a sharp object. The school was placed into lockdown with students told to stay in their classrooms. 2 women and a child suffered minor injuries but didn't go to hospital. The 17-year-old, who cannot be named for legal reasons, did not enter any pleas during the brief hearing this afternoon. He was also charged with being in possession of a bladed or sharp object, which is understood to have been a piece of broken glass. He's next due in court in July. Victoria Share, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
A police officer has been injured after the driver of a car failed to stop in a pursuit in Leeds. The officer suffered non-life-threatening injuries and needed hospital treatment after the incident on Selby Road just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. The driver of a Seat Ibiza was arrested at the scene. Police say inquiries are ongoing. The closure of Bradford Interchange over the past 5 months has cost the public around £1 million. The concourse and bus station was shut down in January after a piece of concrete fell from the ceiling of an underground car park. Since then, a series of surveys have been carried out to decide if the interchange can ever reopen. A final decision on its future won't be made until September. The funeral of a York D-Day veteran who received France's highest honour has taken place today. John Graham from Holgate was 102 when he died earlier this month. He was awarded the Legion of Honour for his bravery in June 1944. At the funeral, Reverend Matt Woodcock said John's courage and sacrifice helped shape the world we live in today.
I think men like him, one of the last surviving of that generation, are extraordinary. They literally repelled evil back on those Normandy shores all those years ago, and everyone at the funeral today owes their freedom and liberty to men like him.
Now, in just over a month's time, we'll go to the polls for the general election, and we'd like to know what really matters to you and what will influence your vote. You can scan the cue card that's on your screen now with a smartphone to get in touch. If you've got any questions or an issue that you'd like to raise, we would love to hear from you. The email's on the screen as well, if you prefer to use it that way. We'll feature it on our TV channels as well as social media. And there's the email, look.north@bbc.co.uk. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield are certainly no strangers to awards, whether it's for their rugby league careers or their remarkable fundraising for motor neurone disease. Well, now they've got another to add to their collection. They've been granted the highest honour by the team at Blue Peter. John Maguire has the story.
3, 2, 1, go.
Wednesday night training for the Underdogs rugby league team in Leeds is extra special this evening. Blue Peter are here filming, and there are 2 surprise guests. But can the children guess who they are?
Rob Burrow? You know what, you're absolutely right. You guys are going to get trained by Rob Burrow and Kevin Sinfield. Are you guys ready? Yeah!
The team is named after Rob's nickname, and 7, his famous shirt number, is on their sleeves.
How long have you been playing rugby?
Well, I think Rob started before me. I think Rob started when he was 5, but I was 7, but we're really old now.
For Rob's parents watching on, it was like a blast from the past.
Good memories, yeah. Fabulous memories, actually, yeah. I wish we could do it all again.
It was one of his first games, and he's saying to the coach, Bob, when am I going on? And the lads that he were playing against were massive. They were really big, weren't they? But he couldn't wait to get on, could he, bless him? But yeah, and they never looked back after that, did they?
No, blimey.
No, yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah, yeah.
And who knows, some of these players might be the players of the future.
Exactly.
I hope they are. Fabulous.
Yeah.
You're in front of him, he can't pass to you.
Here at Blue Peter, we see the work you do with M&D to be genuinely inspirational, but also showing the true meaning of friendship. So these are for you guys, the gold Blue Peter badge.
Thank you very much. It's really special. We both grew up watching Blue Peter, so 12 of these was very nice, but to get these is great. Thank you.
Thank you for this special award. To be awarded a Blue Peter gold badge alongside my friend Kevin Sinfield is a great honour, and I will be sure to wear it with pride.
Countless rugby winners' medals, MBEs, CBEs, and now Blue Peter gold badges. Rob and Kevin are going to need bigger trophy cabinets. John Maguire, BBC News, Leeds.
They certainly are. And you can see the full episode of Blue Peter from tonight on the BBC iPlayer. Now, are you a podcast fan? Well, podcasting is certainly big business these days, and some of its biggest names are in Sheffield this weekend. It's part of a new 3-day festival called Crossed Wires, which will see performances across the city from the likes of Catherine Ryan and Ramesh Ranganathan. Tom Ingle is at the opening party for us this evening from what looks like a very sunny Sheffield rooftop. All yours, Tom.
It is not bad tonight, Amy, and I tell you how swanky this party is. I don't recognise what the canapes are. That's how I know I don't belong here. This is the opening event of Crossed Wires. Not Dockfest, which is 2 weeks away. This is another festival putting the focus on the media production in the famous Steel City. I'm delighted to meet two of the festival founders. We've got Dino Sophos and Alice Levine. You may well recognise Alice from Radio 1 work, but let's talk to Dino first of all. You've got this amazing production company called Persephonica, and you make some high-end stuff, don't you?
We do, and we're bringing it to Sheffield. We are opening an office a stone's throw down the road, but the reason we're here tonight is because of Crossed Wires. And what I think we're doing is planting our flag firmly in the ground, saying that this podcast festival establishes Sheffield as a real hub for podcasting in the UK, and it's just so great to be here.
So what are you looking forward to in the next few days of well, kindly speaking, hot air, people talking to each other?
We have got some of the world's biggest talent right on this rooftop tonight. We've got John Ronson, we've got Greg James, we have got Catherine Ryan, Ramesh Ranganathan doing podcasts in iconic venues across the city, the Crucible, the City Hall. And yeah, we're going to be chatting a lot of hot air, but having fun while we do it.
Thank you, Dina. Alice, your podcast was called My Dad Wrote a Porno.
I can't believe you're saying it, but yes.
No, neither can I. It's just going to annoy my editor. And it became a huge hit. What are the key ingredients of a big hit podcast?
I think the key ingredients are you have to believe in the idea, which we certainly did with My Dad Wrote a Porno. I've said it again. I think that you have to create a feeling that people are in a kind of gang, that you're in a club. And one of the things that we did with My Dad Wrote a Porno was we took it on tour, and I think what was incredible was you got all of these people that usually listen while they're on the commute or cooking or going about their day, and it's a very solo activity, and then you have this opportunity to make it this communal celebration of something that everybody loves. You get the in-jokes, you get the catchphrases, you get the laughter points, and that's what we wanted to capture with Crossed Wires, this feeling that yes, it can be this very intimate experience listening to a podcast, but actually there's this elevated moment that you can have where you all come together, and definitely all the shows on the lineup have that, this very dedicated gang of people who don't miss an episode and certainly wouldn't miss a live appearance.
Good luck with the festival. I can tell it's going to be a hit because even though it's year zero, if you like, it's already got a fringe. You can see some paid events and some free events like some of these. You've heard of hiding your light behind a bushel. Well, how about protecting your modesty with a fern? This weekend, Sheffield's Naked podcast is back, and front too.
This is where the podcast was born. As soon as we heard Crossed Wires was heading to the Steel City, we were like, right, yeah, sign us up. How do we get involved, basically?
The thing I love about making a podcast is the fact that we can share lots of stories from people who live where we live. It's not London-centric, it's not Manchester-centric. We're based here in South Yorkshire. We can share stories of people locally. And if you're a podcast listener, you pick a podcast and think, actually, I know where they're talking about.
Every week we start with something called the Nude News, which basically...
Kat and Jenny's podcast made an impact by finding, let's say, a unique way of discussing body image. But podcasts can be about anything, and they don't have to be intimate. Another streaming smash, Radio Sheffield's football heaven is packing out the City Hall tonight.
Everybody wants to know what's going on. Everybody wants to have a bit of fun at the expense of the other clubs and have those rivalries. And I think it makes for a great show, and we just get to ride that wave of it and have fun with the fans.
Podcasting is booming. Last year, there were 23.3 million people in the UK listening to one. By 2026, it's thought that number could be more than 28 million. And with big numbers come big names. Fee Glover and Jane Garvey have escaped Radio 4 and gone on to, dare I say, better things?
Very intimate, yeah, and we really like that. We really, really like that. People tell us all kinds of things, and I think probably we tell them a bit too much as well.
I certainly do, and often I bitterly regret what I've said, but it often, usually, always stays in the podcast.
Yeah, but tonight it doesn't stay in the podcast, it goes into the whole room.
And that's even more worrying, thank you very much.
Will you be oversharing?
Well, probably, almost certainly after a drink. Yeah, that's in the second half though, so yeah, let's see.
Back on the fringe, just one question remains. How naked is naked?
We are here in the home of the Full Monty. What do you reckon? All will be revealed.
Tastefully, I hope.
Well.
I certainly did enjoy talking to Jen and Kat from the Naked podcast. It's been a while since I've caught up with them, and they said the reason they wanted to get the band back together was because so much had changed in their lives and they wanted to reconnect with that audience in that very intimate way. You'll forgive me for asking the question about how do you do a Naked podcast live, but they did ask me to ask them, and apparently it is going to be all down to the placements and the ferns and the screens on stage. Free event. I don't know what could happen there, but I can tell you tonight a lot of excitement about the start of this festival, which has been funded partly to the tune of £325,000 by the local mayoral authority. They want the festival to be here for 3 years, and as you heard Dino say, he wants to move his company here, and they do make some big podcasts. It could be, as well as the documentary festival and the computer games industry, Sheffield is about to become the centre of another really booming media industry. You'll be saddened to learn, maybe gladdened to learn, I don't have a podcast, and I'm going to start one tonight. It's going to be a podcast about the podcast festival. Amy, have you got a podcast? If so, I'm ready to subscribe.
Funnily enough, I haven't. Not got enough hours in the day, I'm afraid, Tom, for that as well. Thank you. Sounds like Sheffield is the place to be tonight, doesn't it? Let's keep with the creative, shall we? Because how does art make you feel? Ever wondered what it's doing to your brain? Well, if you fancy finding out, take a trip to Wakey this weekend, where special technology can show you what you're feeling by visualising your brainwaves. We sent Abigiola to find out a little bit more.
What goes through your mind when you're surrounded by art? What's happening in your head? Well, visitors to the Hepworth in Wakefield can see how their brain reacts this weekend.
Okay, should we go look at some art, Polly? You put on a headset and it tracks the electrical impulses in your brain. And if you had an EEG scan in a hospital, you'd basically get a graph paper with a pencil line drawing on it. This project translates that line drawing into a really beautiful graphic. So you get these great big arcs and curves of different colours, which mean different things. So different parts of your brain are stimulated by looking at different artworks.
So I suppose the only way to really get an idea of how this works is to have a go. So let's see if there is a brain in there and how it reacts. I don't know if this will make a difference, but I have got a GCSE in pottery, three-dimensional art. So is this triggering any memories?
These are my actual brainwaves. Wide bands show an increase in thinking, and spirals and corkscrews show confusion, which is apparently perfectly normal when looking at art. So how does it work?
We use a headset and that have 5 channels that use electrode sensors picking up the really small electrode signals emitted by your brain into your forehead. And then on the machine, we process all those data and in a scientific way, apparently, and visualize them into ribbons.
It's given visitors a new perspective.
It's just fascinating to see that there's movement inside of my head. It's really interesting. Yeah.
There's so much going on right now that I'm disassociating with the fact that they're my brainwaves, you know? But later I'll be like, oh wow, that was really cool. I saw my brainwaves today.
If you want to see what you're thinking, the Brainwaves project is running all weekend. Abby Jaola, BBC Look North, Wakefield.
I'd just like to see if anything's working in there sometimes, if I'm completely honest. Now, Keely, Miss Sunshine, have you brought it with you this weekend? Please say so.
There will be some this weekend, and it's certainly settling down, but it took a while to come out this afternoon. It's nice out there at the moment, actually, but it certainly started off on a grey note. This was lunchtime in Holmfirth with leaden, overcast skies. It brightened up here, and our second picture, the poppies brightening things up at Stamford Bridge. But you can see very sodden, swollen puddles there, very wet ground in the background there, because we obviously have had a lot of rain. And there's not a lot of rain, if any, in the forecast over the weekend. You can keep your pictures coming in to various different places, to the Weather Watchers page, or on social media to Keely.Donovan on Instagram. So yes, settled conditions for the weekend. Not wall-to-wall sunshine, certainly not tomorrow. We'll call it variable cloud because at times some sunshine, yes, but also quite a bit of cloud in the forecast. And it's settled because of this large area of high pressure extending eastwards through the weekend. Sunday, I think we'll see plenty of sunshine, certainly for the morning. This front on Monday will be weakened by the high pressure. We could see a few spots of rain, but it will introduce slightly fresher conditions for the rest of the week. I think the peak in temperatures will be on Sunday. I don't know why on earth I've put the radar picture in, because there's absolutely no rain to talk about over the last few hours, and the cloud has broken up nicely, so it's a pleasant evening out there at the moment. There'll be clear spells, and then we'll see areas of cloud moving in off the North Sea towards the end of the night, particularly across eastern parts. And I think because we'll have clear spells for quite a while, temperatures will drop back to around 6 or 7 degrees, and that breeze, which has been really quite brisk along the coast, will gradually start to ease down overnight. Your next high water in Scarborough will be at just gone 12 and at around 12-18 in Filey. So tomorrow a mix. There'll be variable amounts of cloud, so some sunshine at times, but I think cloud will bubble up and probably spread out quite a bit as this kind of area of cloud pushes down from the north through the course of the day. Perhaps thick enough for the odd drizzly shower, but most places for most of the day will be dry, and there will be some bright or sunny spells. Still a noticeable breeze along the coast, more in the way of sunshine through the morning on Sunday. Amy.
Thank you. So sun chasers need to head towards Chesterfield, do they?
I wouldn't take it quite that literally, but you can go to Chesterfield. It's lovely.
Well, it is. It's a lovely place to visit. That is it from us. If you fancy spending your Friday night with me, I'll be back at 10:30. I'd enjoy your company. Thank you. Good night.